My mother-in-law stood up in front of 15 people and called me infertile trash. What she didn't know was that I had 3 positive pregnancy tests and a doctor's confirmation on my phone. But I didn't show them to her immediately. My name is Sarah, I'm 32 years old, and I had been married to Michael for 7 years. We met at a coffee shop in Portland, Oregon, where I was working as a marketing director. Michael was charming, kind, and everything I thought I wanted in a husband. But from the moment I married him, his mother Patricia made it clear that she didn't think I was good enough. I was too ambitious. I worked too much. I didn't spend enough time at home. But the worst thing she ever said was that I was failing her son because I hadn't given her grandchildren. What she didn't know was that Michael and I had been trying for 3 years. 3 years of negative pregnancy tests. 3 years of doctor appointments, hormone injections, procedures, disappointment, and tears I cried quietly so nobody would see. We kept it private because we weren't ready to explain our pain to the entire family. But Patricia didn't need facts to judge me. She had already decided I was the problem. It happened on Easter Sunday at Patricia's house. 15 people were sitting around her beautiful mahogany dining table. Michael's brother and his wife were there with their 3 children. Patricia's sister, cousins, and several family friends were all eating, drinking, and laughing. I remember trying to enjoy the evening even though I had felt uncomfortable around Patricia for years. Then she suddenly stood up and tapped her wine glass with a fork. Everyone looked at her. She smiled, looked directly at me, and said, "I just want everyone to know that Sarah here is infertile trash." The room went completely silent. I felt every muscle in my body freeze. Michael was sitting beside me, and for a second, he didn't move. Patricia continued, "If she wasn't defective, we'd have grandchildren by now. That's what wives are supposed to do." I looked at Michael, waiting for him to say something. Anything. But he just stared at the table. And that silence hurt almost as much as her words. I pushed my chair back and walked to the bathroom. I locked the door, looked at myself in the mirror, and tried not to cry. I thought about every test, every injection, every appointment, and every night I had prayed for just one chance to become a mother. Patricia had taken the deepest pain of my life and turned it into entertainment for 15 people. When I finally returned to the dining room, Michael was gone. Patricia was sitting there as if nothing had happened. Her brother looked uncomfortable, her sister-in-law wouldn't look at me, and nobody apologized. So I sat back down and finished my dinner. Because sometimes, when you've spent years trying to keep a marriage together, you learn how to swallow your pain in front of everyone. But 3 weeks earlier, something incredible had happened. After 3 years of trying, I had finally gotten pregnant. We had taken 3 pregnancy tests, and every single one was positive. A few days later, our doctor confirmed it. We were finally going to have a baby. Michael and I had decided to wait until the end of the first trimester before telling our families. We wanted time to process the news privately and make sure everything was progressing normally. But after Patricia called me infertile trash, something inside me changed. I went to my purse, pulled out my phone, and walked back to the table. Patricia looked up at me, probably expecting me to leave. Instead, I placed my phone in front of her. On the screen was a photo from our doctor's appointment. The pregnancy confirmation. Patricia stared at it. Then she looked at me. "What is this?" she whispered. I said nothing. I simply opened another photo. Then another. Her face slowly changed. The confidence disappeared from her eyes. She looked at Michael, who had just returned to the room. And then I said, "I'm pregnant." Nobody moved. Patricia stared at me as if she couldn't understand the words. Then she shook her head. "No," she whispered. "You're lying." Michael stepped forward and said, "She's not lying, Mom." Patricia looked at him. "You knew?" she asked. Michael nodded. We both knew. And then he added something that made the entire room go silent again. "But there's something else you need to know. Sarah was never the one with the fertility problem." Patricia's face went completely pale. Michael explained that after years of trying, we had undergone additional testing. The doctors had discovered that the problem was connected to him, not me. It wasn't something he had chosen, and it wasn't something either of us was ashamed of. But we had decided to keep it private. Patricia had spent 3 years blaming me for something I had never caused. She had called me defective. She had called me infertile trash. And all that time, she had never even known the truth. Patricia looked at Michael, then back at me. Her lips began to tremble. She tried to speak, but no words came out. Then she started crying. Not angry crying. Not dramatic crying. Real crying. She covered her face with both hands and began sobbing at the table in front of everyone. "I'm sorry," she kept saying. "Sarah, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I was wrong. I was so wrong." But I stood there quietly. Because being pregnant didn't erase what she had said. A baby didn't magically undo years of humiliation. And becoming a grandmother didn't make her words disappear. I looked at her and said, "You didn't call me infertile trash because you knew the truth. You called me that because you thought you had the right to judge me." That's what hurt the most. Patricia cried even harder. But I realized something that day. Her tears weren't only about what she had done to me. They were also about the image she had created of herself. She had always believed she was the perfect mother, the perfect grandmother, the person who knew what was best for everyone. And suddenly, 15 people had seen exactly who she could be when she thought she was powerful. Michael and I left that dinner together. For the next 2 months, we had almost no contact with Patricia. She called every day. She sent flowers. She sent cards. She left long voicemails apologizing. My own mother even told me that I should forgive Patricia because she was family. But I had learned something important. Forgiveness doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. It doesn't mean giving someone the same access to your life after they have shown you how easily they can hurt you. Eventually, Michael and I agreed that Patricia could be part of our daughter's life. But things between Patricia and me would never be the same. She could be her grandmother. But she would no longer have the same access to me. She would not be present at every appointment. She would not be the first person I called with every update. She would not be invited into every private moment of my motherhood. Because access to my daughter did not automatically mean access to my heart. My pregnancy was healthy, and several months later, our daughter was born. She was beautiful, healthy, and weighed 8 pounds. When Patricia held her for the first time, she started crying again. I watched her holding my daughter, and I remembered the words she had spoken at that Easter dinner. Infertile trash. But this time, I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel defective. I didn't feel like I had to prove anything to anyone. Because the truth was, my daughter had never been proof of my worth. I never needed a baby to prove I was valuable. I was valuable before the pregnancy test. I was valuable during the years of infertility. I was valuable when Patricia insulted me in front of 15 people. And I was still valuable when I walked away from her. So if someone has ever made you feel like your body determines your worth, remember this: it doesn't. Your fertility doesn't determine your value. Your career doesn't determine your value. Your relationship status doesn't determine your value. And no cruel person gets to define who you are. Patricia once called me infertile trash. Years later, she held my daughter in her arms. But the real victory wasn't proving her wrong. The real victory was realizing that I had never been what she called me in the first place.